Have you ever loved a man so much that you were willing to set his world on fire, just to feel the warmth of the blaze? Just a month before the wedding, the world was painted in soft focus, like a scene from an old romantic movie. The air in our small apartment was thick with anticipation, a sweet, suffocating blend of hope and a touch of sheer panic. I remember leaning against Ethan, my future husband, the weight of my head sinking into the solid warmth of his shoulder. "It's only a month away," I whispered, my voice barely disturbing the quiet space between us. "I feel jittery." "Is that normal?" Ethan's arms wrapped around me, a familiar fortress. He pressed his lips to my forehead, a soft, proprietary kiss that was supposed to erase all doubt. "What is there to be nervous about, huh?" he murmured into my hair. "Your only job is to be my wife. I'll take care of the rest of the world for you." And I believed him. I let myself melt into that promise, into the solid wall of his chest. Our 3-year love story was finally reaching its crescendo, a perfect storybook ending about to begin. It felt complete. I was a financial analyst at a downtown bank, a good, stable job. Ethan, on the other hand, was a star, senior sales director for a major tech firm, pulling in a salary that most people only dream of. He was the kind of man who commanded a room just by walking into it. We were, by all accounts, the perfect couple, the handsome, successful man, and the smart, steady woman. Both our families were overjoyed, especially mine. To them, Ethan wasn't just a good catch. He was a miracle, a man who was not only brilliant and ambitious but who also cherished me, who treated me with a tenderness that made my mother weep with joy. In 3 years, he had never given me a single reason to doubt him. He charmed my entire extended family, remembering my cousin's kid's name and my uncle's favorite brand of whiskey. He could, as my dad used to say, talk a dog off a meat wagon. Our honeymoon was a sun-drenched dream in Italy. He paraded me through the ancient streets of Rome, showered me with shopping bags from Florence, and treated me like a queen. In his presence, I felt exquisitely small, utterly protected. The happiness was an ocean inside me, so vast and deep I couldn't find the words to describe its shores. When we returned, life fell into a beautiful rhythm. Every morning, Ethan would drive me to the bank, and without fail, the women in my office would watch us from the window. I could hear their sighs, see the admiration in their eyes, especially Sarah, my closest colleague at the office. "You'd better keep a tight leash on that one, Hannah," she'd tease, stirring her coffee. I see the way women look at him when he walks in. It's like a lion just entered a room full of gazelles. "One of these days, you might lose him." I'd just laugh, a genuine, untroubled laugh. "Oh, Sarah, you worry too much." "I know Ethan. He wouldn't." "Wouldn't what?" "Be a man." "Honey, I'm just saying, don't get complacent. You have to fight for what's yours in this world." I'd just shake my head, smiling. So many people warned me, in their own subtle ways, that a man, that handsome, that successful, would always be a target. But their words were like raindrops on a window pane. I was inside, warm and dry, wrapped in the certainty of his love. He adored me, cared for me in 1,000 small ways. His love was a constant, blinding sun in my sky, and I had no time or reason to pay attention to the shadows. But I didn't know, did I? I couldn't see that in those shadows, there were women with hungry eyes, women who coveted the life I had, the man I loved, women who were sharpening their knives, just waiting for a chance to carve out a piece of my happiness for themselves. His job required him to network constantly, to entertain clients, to be on. And often, by his side at these events was Clara. She was an associate on his team, a stunningly beautiful woman 5 years younger than me. and she was utterly obsessed with him. I learned later that from the moment she joined the company, she'd had her sights set on Ethan. She'd made her advances obvious, flirtatious, relentless. But back then, he was devoted to me, on the verge of proposing, and he'd politely, but firmly, shut her down. Our wedding didn't deter her. It fueled her. It was a challenge. And now, she saw her opportunity to not just win him over, but to steal him, to conquer. When she and Ethan had to meet with clients, her choice of attire was a declaration of war. She'd wear dresses that plunged, necklines that were more of an invitation than a design feature. Her perfume was a weapon, lingering in the air long after she'd left a room. One particular afternoon, as she slid into the passenger seat of his car, Ethan finally had to say something. "Clara, we're meeting clients to discuss a 7-figure deal. Could you maybe dress a little more professionally? This is a bit much." The words hit her like a slap. I can picture her face now, a flash of fury, quickly masked by a wounded expression. But his coolness, his distance, it only made her want him more. It was a game to her. "Of course, Ethan," she'd said, her voice a purr of false compliance. I'll learn from this." He said nothing, just started the car. During the meeting, the male client couldn't keep his eyes off her chest. He was practically drooling. Ethan ignored it, tried to keep the focus on business, but Clara was squirming. She was used to being looked at, but only by the man she wanted. "This is all your fault, Ethan," I imagine her thinking. "If you would just look at me like that, I wouldn't have to endure this." She excused herself to the restroom. The moment she was gone, the client turned to Ethan, his eyes gleaming. "Hey, that associate of yours, Clara, she seeing anyone?" Ethan just smiled, a cool, professional mask. "You like what you see, huh?" The client nodded eagerly. "She's captivating, absolutely stunning." Ethan pulled out his phone. "Here, let me give you her number. You can try your luck tonight." On the drive back to the office, Clara tried again. "I'm starving, Ethan. Can we grab a bite to eat, please? It's not often I get to spend time with you alone." "I have to get back to the office, Clara. Reports to finish. Please?" She whined, her voice turning childish. "Just a quick coffee? That little cafe right up there? Just for a few minutes." She kept on, a relentless pleading hum, until he finally gave in, pulling the car over with a sigh. She beamed, a triumphant glint in her eyes. Inside the cafe, they ordered coffee. She added a slice of decadent chocolate cake for herself. Ethan sat across from her, sipping his black coffee, his attention already back on his phone, scrolling through emails. Clara, however, was putting on a performance. She leaned forward, again and again, to take a bite of cake, ensuring her dress gaped open, offering him an unobstructed view. It was a silent, desperate invitation, but he didn't even look up. The frustration must have been eating her alive. She took a piece of cake on her fork and held it out to his lips. "Here, try some. It's delicious." He turned his head away. "I don't like sweets. And Clara, could you please sit up? I don't want people to get the wrong idea." She laughed, a breathy, dangerous sound. "What wrong idea? I want them to get the wrong idea." He set his phone down, his expression turning serious. "I'm married. Clara." She ignored him, her hand reaching across the table to touch his. "Being with you like this, it makes me so happy. I wish every day could be like this." He pulled his hand away sharply. "Don't do this. You're a beautiful woman. You could have any guy you want. Don't cheapen yourself by chasing after a married man." Her eyes welled up with crocodile tears. "But I like you, Ethan. I've liked you since before you were married. I still do. Why can't you just give me a chance?" "I'm sorry," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "You have to stop." She grabbed his hand again, this time pressing it hard against her own chest. "Feel this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "My heart is beating like crazy. For you." That was his limit. He stood up abruptly, signaling to the waitress. "Excuse me? Could I get a slice of that cake to go, please?" Clara's face lit up, a flicker of hope. He was getting it for her. Maybe he felt bad. Maybe he was trying to apologize. "Oh, Ethan," she cooed, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "How did you know I was still hungry?" He looked at her, his expression unreadable, as he took the box from the waitress. "I'm not. This is for my wife," he said, his voice flat and final. "We should get back to the office. It's getting late." He walked out, leaving her sitting there, frozen, her hands clenched into tight fists under the table. Wife, wife, wife. Always his wife. Here she was, offering herself to him on a silver platter, and he wouldn't even bite. The humiliation burned hotter than any desire. That night, she couldn't sleep. The more he pushed her away, the more determined she became. She had to have him. As she lay in bed, tossing and turning, an idea sparked in her mind. His mother. How could she get to his mother? She scrolled through Ethan's social media, a digital stalker on a mission, until she found her. Eleanor, his mom. Clara spent the next hour liking every photo, commenting on every post. "Eleanor, you look so chic. What a beautiful garden. You have such a green thumb." Eleanor, flattered by the sudden attention from a beautiful young woman, replied, "Thank you, dear, but who are you?" "Oh, I'm Clara," she typed back, her fingers flying across the screen. "I work with your wonderful son, Ethan." And just like that, the door was open. They chatted back and forth, Clara laying the charm on thick. Soon, they were practically friends. And then came the invitation Clara had been working for all along. Eleanor invited her over for dinner sometime. She didn't know she was inviting a viper into her home, a viper who was patiently laying the groundwork for a plan to sink her fangs into the heart of her family. Meanwhile, Ethan and I were still floating in our newlywed bliss. With no kids yet, our life was a series of spontaneous trips and romantic weekends away. To him, I was still his precious girl, someone to be cherished and protected. After one of these trips, a week away in the mountains, we came home, tired and happy. We walked through the front door, and I stopped dead. Clara was in our kitchen. She was standing next to Eleanor, helping her cook. "Oh, you're back," Clara chirped, her smile so bright it was blinding. Ethan's face was a mask of surprise, but he kept his voice cool and distant. I, on the other hand, had no idea who this was or what was happening. I forced a polite smile. "Hi, Mom," I said, walking over. "We have a guest." "Hannah, dear," Eleanor said, wiping her hands on her apron. "This is Clara. She works with Ethan. I invited her for dinner. You two go on upstairs. Wash up. Clara, sweetie, help me set the table." "Of course, Eleanor," Clara replied, her voice dripping with reverence. On the surface, I played the part of the gracious hostess. But as soon as we were in our bedroom with the door closed, the heat rose in my body. The blood rushed to my head. A tight, suffocating feeling squeezed my chest. I threw my handbag onto the bed. What the hell was she doing here? Wasn't it enough that she was sniffing around him at work? Now she had to track him all the way to his home. To my home, that bitch. I swallowed the rage, splashed cold water on my face, and composed myself. When I went back downstairs, the sight of Ethan made me want to kick him. All the warnings from Sarah, from everyone else, came rushing back. They were right. He was too handsome, too charming. Of course women would flock to him. All right, I thought to myself, a new, cold resolve hardening inside me. You want to play games? Let's see how you like my game. I sat down at the table as Clara served the food with a flourish. I made my specialty tonight, she announced, her eyes fixed on Ethan. Spaghetti bolognese. I hope you all enjoy it. She looked at him with such naked adoration it made my stomach turn. My suspicion was confirmed. Ethan, for his part, remained completely indifferent to her, which gave me a small sliver of satisfaction. She was dressed demurely tonight. Jeans and a simple white blouse, light makeup, the picture of innocence, a wolf in sheep's clothing. I looked at her and smiled. My own smile now a weapon. Wow, Clara, you're so talented. This looks amazing. Ethan, honey, you have to eat a lot, okay? He just mumbled an uh-huh in response. Just then, Eleanor called out from the living room. Clara, sweetie, can you come up here and help me with this cabinet door? It's stuck again. Coming, Clara chirped and ran upstairs. The moment she was gone, I saw my chance. I looked at the 4 plates of spaghetti on the table. My eyes darted to the spice cabinet. I walked over, my movements quick and silent, and pulled out the jar of extra hot cayenne pepper and a tube of wasabi paste. You want to play dirty, you little tramp? Let's get filthy. I squeezed a sickening amount of wasabi onto her plate and mixed it in viciously. Then I added half a bottle of cayenne for good measure, stirring until the red-hot powder disappeared into the rich sauce. Ethan watched me, a slow, amused smile spreading across his face. He didn't try to stop me. Getting a little jealous, are we? He whispered. I shot him a look that could kill. After I'm done with her, you're next. Hey, what did I do? He protested, holding up his hands in mock surrender. Just then, Eleanor and Clara came back downstairs. All right, let's eat, Eleanor announced. Clara, you're so gifted. This looks delicious. Quick as a flash, Ethan switched the plates, moving the untainted one in front of his mother and the fiery, weaponized plate directly in front of Clara. Help yourself, Clara, he said, his voice smooth as silk. She blushed, flattered. Please, you all start. Ethan and I dug in immediately, eating with gusto. But Clara just sat there, staring at Ethan, as if she could devour him with her eyes. I was so furious I wanted to smash the plate over her head. I took a deep breath to calm myself, then kicked Ethan hard under the table. He choked on a mouthful of pasta, sputtering. He looked at me, saw the murder in my eyes, and immediately understood. Clara, he said, turning to her, why aren't you eating? Is something wrong? She snapped out of her trance. Oh, no. Is it good? Do you all like it? It's delicious, I said through a tight smile. Eleanor had already finished half her plate. Wonderful, dear. Truly wonderful. Now eat up. An idea suddenly sparked in Ethan's mind. Let's all go out for coffee after this, he declared. My treat. But anyone who doesn't finish their plate has to stay home. I immediately shoveled the rest of my spaghetti into my mouth. Done, I announced, my plate clean. Ethan looked at me with a loving gaze. That's my girl. Everyone had finished except for Clara, who was still gazing at Ethan like a lovesick puppy. Eleanor urged her on. Come on, dear, eat up. You don't want to miss out on coffee, do you? Clara was thrilled. They love my cooking. I'm totally winning them over. I'm going to make Ethan mine. I watched her, a smirk playing on my lips. She has no idea what she's thinking. Go on, eat it. See how delicious it really is. Ethan slammed his hand lightly on the table. All right, well, if Clara doesn't want to come, I guess it's just the three of us. No, I want to come, she said, startled. I'm eating right now. She quickly scooped up a huge forkful of spaghetti and shoved it into her mouth. Her face instantly contorted. The huge bite of pasta felt like a raging fire in her mouth. What the hell? She must have thought. Why is it so burning hot? Did I add the wrong spice? But everyone else is eating it just fine. I looked at Ethan with a sweet, threatening gaze that said, "If you ever get involved with her, you're dead to me." He suddenly looked terrified of his sweet, petite wife. He turned back to Clara. "What's wrong, Clara? You don't look so good. Is there a problem?" She shook her head frantically, her eyes watering. No problem at all. She managed to choke out, forcing herself to swallow the mouthful of fire. The pasta burned a path all the way down her throat. Tears were streaming down her face, but she forced herself to keep eating. She had to finish. She had to go for coffee. She had to impress them. A little sacrifice was worth it. After an agonizing ordeal, she finally finished the plate. We all went to the coffee shop. As soon as we sat down under the bright lights, Eleanor gasped, "My goodness, Clara, what happened to your mouth?" Her lips were swollen to twice their normal size, red and blistered. They looked like two giant, horrifying leeches. "Oh my God, what happened to you?" Ethan exclaimed, feigning shock, though I knew he was trying not to laugh. I kicked him again under the table. Then I turned to Clara, my voice dripping with fake concern. "Clara, are you okay? You know, next time, if you feel like you can't handle something, you shouldn't force it. Sometimes, when you push too hard, you end up paying the price." Clara pulled out her phone to look at her reflection. She shrieked and dropped it on the floor. The burning sensation had been bad, but she had no idea she looked so monstrous. Mortified, she mumbled an excuse about needing to go to the hospital and rushed out. I picked up her phone and handed it to her with a gentle smile. "Drive safe, now." Eleanor was completely baffled. "I don't understand. We all ate the same thing. Why would only Clara have such a terrifying allergic reaction?" Ethan just smirked, looking at me. I shot him a warning glare, and he immediately straightened his face. As I sat there, I remembered the look in Clara's eyes as she stared at my husband, and I realized something. I had been too naive. In this world, there are countless women like Clara, shameless, predatory, and determined. And my husband, my Ethan, he was perfect, too perfect. It was only natural that women would desire him. I would have to be more vigilant from now on. Clara, after her trip to the hospital, was admitted for observation. Her throat was so swollen and painful she could barely speak. She was bewildered. How could the food I cooked be so spicy? And why was I the only one affected? She looked at her swollen face in the mirror and despaired. Damn it. How can I let Ethan see me like this? I look hideous. It took a full week for the swelling in Clara's mouth to go down. A week spent in the sterile silence of a hospital room. A week of imagining Ethan's life moving on without her. Was he thinking of her? Or was he, perhaps, noticing someone else in the office now that she was gone? The thought was a constant, low-grade fever. When she finally returned, her lips restored to their former pouty perfection, she found her nightmare waiting for her. There was a new girl. Her name was Chloe, and she was everything Clara wasn't. Fresh out of college, with a face that was more innocent than beautiful, a canvas of wide, guileless eyes, and a scattering of faint freckles across her nose. She dressed like a student, simple blouses, dark jeans, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She wasn't a bombshell, not like Clara. She was quiet, understated, and she was sitting at the desk directly opposite Ethan's, a permanent fixture in his line of sight. Worse, Clara quickly learned. She was the CEO's niece, placed under Ethan's direct supervision to learn the ropes. A knot of pure, cold dread tightened in Clara's stomach. She felt the ground shift beneath her feet. First, the wife, and now this. This connected, innocent-looking little snake, sent here by the man at the very top. The irony was sickening. Here was Clara, the would-be other woman, consumed with a jealous rage, while I, Hannah, the actual wife, was still blissfully going about my days, completely oblivious. Clara didn't need me to be her rival anymore. She had already created a new one in her own mind, and she was ready to go to war. She walked over to Chloe's desk, her heels clicking a sharp, territorial rhythm on the polished floor. She leaned over, her voice a sickly sweet syrup. "Hi there, you must be the new girl. So adorable." Chloe looked up, her expression polite but unreadable. "Hello, I'm Chloe. It's a pleasure to meet you. I hope you'll help me out if I have any questions." "Of course, sweetie," Clara purred, her smile never reaching her eyes. She leaned in closer, as if sharing a secret, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Just a little friendly advice. Don't get any ideas about our director. You're not in his league. You don't stand a chance." Chloe's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of shock, then hardened into something cold and sharp. For the niece of a CEO, a girl who likely never had to fight for anything, this blatant aggression was a new and unwelcome experience. But it was her first day. She held her tongue, a silent promise of future retaliation, simmering behind her calm facade. "I'm new," she thought, "so I'll let it slide." For now, throughout the day, Clara watched as Ethan patiently mentored the new girl. He'd pull his chair up to her desk, leaning in to point at something on her screen, his voice a low, patient murmur. He explained things to Chloe with a kindness and attentiveness that made Clara's blood boil. At lunchtime, he ordered coffee and pastries for the entire team, a welcoming gesture. As he handed a croissant to Chloe, their fingers brushed for a fraction of a second. Clara felt it like an electric shock. Chloe, for her part, was a quick study. She saw the daggers Clara was shooting her way. She glanced again at Ethan, really looked at him. Handsome, confident, kind to his colleagues, and fiercely loyal to his wife. She understood the appeal. Then she looked at Clara, with her overt sexuality and desperate ploys for attention. Shameless homewrecker, Chloe thought with a dismissive curl of her lip. When the clock hit 5, the office began to empty out. But Clara lingered, pretending to organize files on her desk, waiting for her moment. "Ethan," she cooed, walking over to his desk. "Are you heading out soon?" He didn't look up from his computer. "I've still got some work to wrap up. You and the others can go ahead. Drive safe." Chloe, who had also stayed late to finish her onboarding tasks, saw the whole exchange. She saw Clara's predatory posture, the disappointment on her face, and she decided to intervene. "Hey, Ethan," she called out, her voice bright and cheerful. "Speaking of which, don't forget Marcus's barbecue is next week. You have to bring Hannah. I'm dying to finally meet the woman who captured the heart of our amazing director." Ethan finally looked up, a warm, genuine smile breaking across his face. "Of course, wouldn't miss it." Chloe watched with immense satisfaction as Clara's face fell, the forced smile tightening around the edges. But Chloe wasn't finished. "You know, Marcus tells me the most wonderful things about you," she continued, her tone full of admiration. "He says you're the most incredible husband, so devoted to your wife and your family. It's so inspiring. I really look up to you both." The praise, so public and so pointed, was like a knife in Clara's gut. Ethan's smile widened. He was clearly flattered. "Well, of course, a man's wife, His family. They have to come first. That's your whole life. Right there. As if to punctuate the sentiment, he pulled his wallet from his jacket, opened it, and gazed for a moment at a picture tucked inside. My picture. Clara stood there, frozen, a silent statue of defeat. Chloe packed her bag. Well, I'm heading out. See you tomorrow, Ethan. As she left, a dejected Clara followed her out. They stepped into the elevator together. The doors slid shut, encasing them in a small, silent metal box. The air crackled with tension. Clara broke the silence, her voice a low growl. What the hell was that little performance back there? Chloe turned to face her, her innocent demeanor gone, replaced by a cold, hard confidence. She reached out and casually tucked the strap of Clara's blouse, which had slipped off her shoulder, back into place. Her touch was icy. Look, lady, she said, her voice dangerously quiet. Ethan is a married man. He is not your property. So maybe you should stop acting so possessive. And you should definitely stop threatening me. Don't play innocent with me, Clara spat, her face twisting with rage. I saw the way you were looking at him. You want him, don't you? You can't fool me. Chloe was so stunned by the sheer audacity of the accusation that she just laughed. A short, sharp, incredulous sound. You're delusional. The elevator pinged, the doors sliding open. As Chloe took a step out, Clara stuck out her foot. Chloe went down, hard, sprawling onto the cold marble floor of the lobby. Her knee screamed in pain. Clara stepped over her, looking down with a triumphant sneer. She leaned in, her voice a low taunt. You're still so young and naive. Learn your place and do your job. If you don't, I promise you, I will make your life a living hell. She turned and walked away, leaving Chloe on the floor, humiliated and seething. The physical pain was nothing compared to the burning rage that was now consuming her. She pushed herself up, her eyes fixed on Clara's retreating back. You crazy old bitch, she thought, her hands clenched into fists. I will not let you get away with this. I will tear you to pieces. Clara went home, throwing her bag onto the bed, her mind racing. That little brat, that little connected, entitled brat. She was a bigger threat than she'd realized. I can't let this happen, Clara thought, pacing her room. I have to get rid of her. I have to find a way to get her fired. She had no idea that she had just started a war she was not prepared to win. The next day, Ethan called me. Hey, honey, you still taking that advanced accounting class tonight? I smiled into the phone. The sound of his voice was still my favorite song. Yep, straight after work. Why? Just checking. I'll head home first then. Study hard. I love you. I love you too. I hung up, a goofy, happy smile on my face. Sarah saw my expression from across the room. Let me guess, Mr. Perfect just called to say he loves you for the 5th time today. Something like that, I laughed. He's just always been like that, every single day, for years now. You're one lucky woman, Sarah said, her tone turning serious. So, what's the latest with that office viper? The one from dinner. Did you deal with her? I'd been so busy with my class that I'd almost forgotten about Clara. The memory brought back a flash of anger. Oh God, I completely forgot about that bitch. Now that you mention it, I'm pissed all over again. You can't just let that go, Hannah, Sarah warned. A woman that brazen will stop at nothing. You need to cut her down, rip her face off. Metaphorically, of course. Maybe. I just smiled and winked. Don't you worry, Sarah. I'll handle it. But it'll be a sweet revenge. I don't need to get my hands dirty. These days, the best way to win is to make them destroy themselves. It's more fun to watch that way. But while I was calmly plotting my sweet revenge, I had no idea that a proxy war was already raging on my behalf. Back in Ethan's office, Chloe, fueled by a night of simmering rage, had begun her counterattack. She started by seeking out Ethan, knowing it was the one thing that would drive Clara insane. She knew Clara was obsessed with him, so the only way to truly punish her was to shatter her fantasy, to make her watch as Ethan himself rejected her, again and again, and worse, to make her watch him protect Chloe. It would be a beautiful, slow-motion train wreck, and Chloe couldn't wait to see the carnage. While Clara and Chloe were sharpening their knives for each other, I was still blissfully unaware, happily juggling my job and my evening classes. Life was good, too good. "Hey," Sarah said one afternoon, catching me by the coffee machine. "Have you dealt with the Clara situation yet? You seem way too calm." "Not yet," I admitted. "I've been so busy." "Hannah, listen to me," she said, her voice low and urgent. "I heard from my friend who works over there. Everyone in that office knows. Clara is making a play for your husband. Are you not worried you're going to lose him?" I just shrugged, a small, confident smile on my face. "Ethan and I share our locations. I know where he is 24/7. Besides," I added, "if a man is the type to cheat, the more you try to control him, the more he'll pull away. And honestly, Sarah, if he has that in him, I don't want him anyway." "You say that now," she muttered, "but you'll be singing a different tune when you find him in bed with her. You need to give that bitch a warning shot she'll never forget." "Oh, I will," I promised, my eyes glittering with a dark amusement. "I'm just waiting for the right moment, and trust me, it'll be sweet." But I was busy. The class was demanding, and I was still checking Ethan's location every day. He came straight home from work. He read his books while waiting for me to get back from my classes. I felt secure. I put the Clara problem on the back burner. In the office, however, the temperature was rising. Every morning, the first thing Clara did was check her makeup in a compact mirror, pulling the neckline of her blouse a little lower. Then, she would make Ethan a coffee. "Here you go, Ethan." "Thanks, Clara." She'd lean over his shoulder, her perfume suffocating, her body a blatant invitation. "Ethan, can I have 30 minutes of your time this afternoon? Privately? What's it about?" "You can just tell me now." She shook her head, trying to look mysterious. "It's a personal matter. It wouldn't be appropriate to discuss it here." Chloe, sitting at her desk, watched the whole pathetic display with a smirk. She's going to try and seduce him again. So shameless. At the end of the day, Ethan called her over. "Okay, Clara, I have 5 minutes." "What's up?" Chloe quietly got up from her desk, but she didn't leave. She stood just outside the glass door of his office, pretending to be on her phone, straining to listen. "Let's go to a coffee shop," Clara suggested, her voice husky. "We can talk there." Ethan already knew where this was going. He'd had enough. "No, just say what you need to say here. I have to go pick up my wife." Clara's face fell. "Wife, wife, wife. Are you that scared of her?" "Let's just say I am," he said, his voice flat. "Now, are you going to talk, or am I going home?" She reached for his hand. He pulled it away. "I'm in love with you, Ethan," she blurted out, her voice trembling. "I know you don't want any trouble, but I'm willing to be your secret lover. Just the two of us. I swear, I'll never cause any problems for you or your wife." Outside, Chloe could only make out muffled sounds. "What the hell is that psycho saying?" Ethan shook his head, a look of pity on his face. "Clara, thank you for your feelings, but I'm sorry, I can't. Now, I'm going home." As he stood up to leave, Clara did something drastic. She yanked her blouse down to her waist, exposing her chest completely. "If you walk out that door," she said, her voice shaking with a terrifying intensity, "I will scream. I'll scream that you sexually assaulted me, that you tried to rape me. Let's see how the rest of the company looks at you then." Ethan froze, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Are you insane?" She threw herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck, trying to kiss him. He struggled to push her off, but she clung to him like a leech. "I love you, I love you," she sobbed. "Please, just come with me, just for a little while. Please, I'm begging you." He was repulsed, trapped. Just then, Chloe, hearing the struggle, threw the door open. She saw Clara, half naked, clinging to a horrified Ethan. His eyes met hers over Clara's shoulder, a silent plea for help. Thinking fast, Chloe turned back towards the hallway and yelled at the top of her lungs, "Hannah, oh my God, Hannah, come in here. Ethan's in his office." The sound of my name was like a bucket of ice water on Clara. She instantly let go of Ethan and scrambled to pull her blouse up. In that moment of chaos, Chloe grabbed Ethan's hand and pulled him out of the office. Clara stood there, stunned for a few seconds, before she realized she'd been tricked. And they were gone. Out in the parking garage, Ethan and Chloe finally let go of each other's hands, both breathing heavily. "Thank you," Ethan said, his voice shaky. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been there." Chloe just winked. "That woman is shameless. I've never seen anything like it." "You're telling me," Ethan sighed. He looked at Chloe, then noticed something. "So, why are you still here anyway?" Her face fell, a convincing mask of sadness. "My car has a flat tire. I was just about to walk to the service station down the road." "There's one right across the street," he said. "Here, let me help you push it over." "Oh, no, you don't have to." But he was already walking towards her car. He was a good man, and watching him push her car across the street, his brow furrowed in concentration, the muscles in his arms straining, Chloe felt a strange flutter in her chest. When he was done, his forehead was dotted with sweat. Without thinking, she reached up and wiped his brow with the sleeve of her sweater. He didn't pull away. Their eyes met for a moment, and Chloe's heart started to pound. "He really is perfect," she thought. "No wonder Clara is so crazy about him. What a shame he's already married." From that day on, a new dynamic formed. Every time Clara tried to corner Ethan, Chloe would magically appear, a guardian angel in designer jeans, rescuing him from the clutches of the office succubus. Clara was losing her mind. She felt a new, terrifying suspicion growing in her gut. Chloe wasn't just protecting Ethan. She was developing feelings for him herself. One morning, Clara brought Ethan his coffee. "Here you go, Ethan. Have you had breakfast yet?" He gave her his polite, distant smile, the one that drove her mad. "Thanks, Clara. I've already eaten." She pretended to see something on his face. "Oh, you've got something on your cheek. Let me get it for you." She leaned in, pressing her thigh against his arm under the desk. Just then, Chloe's voice cut through the air like a whip. "This is an office, you two. Can we please maintain a professional environment?" Ethan seized the opportunity to escape, walking over to Chloe's desk to discuss a work matter. Clara went back to her seat, her eyes burning holes into the two of them. Later that afternoon, she prepared a file for a client meeting she was supposed to attend with Ethan. "I'm ready to go, Ethan," she said, walking over, then shot a condescending look at Chloe. "See you later, sweetie." But Ethan shook his head. "Actually, Clara, I think you should stay here today. I'm going to take Chloe. It'll be good for her to get some experience." He turned to the younger woman. "Come on, Chloe, let's go." Chloe's face lit up. She walked over, took the file right out of Clara's hand, and said with a drippingly sweet, sarcastic voice, You stay here and finish up those reports. Okay, Clara. Thanks so much. They left. Clara stood there, stunned, watching them go. The rage that had been simmering inside her finally boiled over. She let out a guttural scream and threw the report she was holding to the ground. That bitch, she shrieked. How dare she steal my opportunity? She sat down, her mind racing. Why is Ethan suddenly so interested in Chloe? Does he like her? No, I can't lose to that little tramp. An idea, dark and venomous, began to form in her mind. I'll tell his wife. I'll tell Hannah everything. Let's see how she deals with you. You little nobody. She got my number. She composed the text. Hi, Hannah. My name is Chloe. I think you should know that I've become very close with your husband, Ethan, lately. He buys me food, and we're always together. The whole office is talking about us. It's getting pretty awkward. My phone buzzed. I was in the middle of reconciling an account. I glanced at the screen, read the message, and my blood ran cold. What the hell is this? Who the hell is Chloe? A second message came through. I'll send you some pictures of him kissing me later. I slammed my hand down on my desk. Bam! Sarah jumped. What's wrong with you? I came back to myself. Oh, nothing. Just got a little dizzy for a second. I'm fine. Dizzy? Do you need some Advil? No, I'm good. I forced a smile and replied to the text. Is this Clara? The reply was instant. Yes, you need to deal with Chloe before you regret it. And suddenly, everything clicked into place. This wasn't about Chloe. This was about Clara. She couldn't get to Ethan, so she was lashing out at this new girl. A classic case of jealous rage. I sent another text, designed to provoke. Oh, that's funny. I thought Ethan liked you. How did this Chloe girl suddenly enter the picture? I guess you're not as special as you thought you were. The message was a direct hit. Clara, reading my words, felt a fresh wave of fury. She wanted to march over to Chloe's desk and tear her hair out. As for me, I started to do my own research. Who was this Chloe? It seemed I had been too complacent. I hadn't even dealt with Clara, and now there was a new player in the game. My head was spinning, but then an idea came to me. A brilliant, beautiful idea. I would make them destroy each other, and I wouldn't have to lift a finger. After the client meeting, a successful one, by all accounts, Ethan was in a good mood. He turned to Chloe, a genuine warmth in his eyes. Hey, I'm starving. You want to grab something to eat? Chloe's heart did a little flip. Ethan is finally paying attention to me, she thought, a thrill running through her. I have to seize this moment. Yes, I'd love to, she said, her voice a little breathless. I'm starving too. He took her to a sleek, upscale Japanese restaurant, the kind with soft lighting and hushed conversations. They sat across from each other, the table a small island in the quiet room. In front of him, Chloe consciously morphed into the perfect woman, attentive, intelligent, hanging on his every word. She was demure, respectful, nothing like the aggressive, desperate Clara. Ethan found himself relaxing, enjoying her company. She was a sweet kid, he thought, smart and eager to learn. What he didn't know was that I was just a few blocks away. My phone, with its shared location app, had become my crystal ball. I saw his dot stationary at the restaurant address, and my heart began to pound, a slow, heavy drumbeat of dread. I drove there, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, and parked across the street, a spy in my own life. Through the large glass window of the restaurant, I saw them, laughing, talking animatedly. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Evidence, a small, bitter souvenir from the night my perfect marriage began to crack. Then, I called him. He looked down at his phone, then glanced at Chloe. A flicker of something, guilt, in his eyes before he answered. "Hello, Hannah," he said, his voice a little too bright. "Hey, honey," I said, my own voice a carefully constructed melody of nonchalance. "Where are you?" "Still at the office." I paused, letting the lie hang in the air between us. "My car just broke down. Can you come pick me up?" The silence on his end stretched for a heart-stopping second. I'm actually in a meeting with a client right now," he said. The words were smooth, but I could hear the lie underneath. A sour, discordant note. "Can you just grab a cab? I'll check on the car tonight when I get home." Tears pricked my eyes. It was the first time, the very first time, in our entire relationship, that he had ever lied to me. My perfect husband, the man who was my entire world, had just lied to my face. I hung up, my hand trembling. I pressed my palm to my mouth to stifle a sob. It was true. Everything Sarah had warned me about, everything I had dismissed as cynicism, was coming true. The man I worshipped had just betrayed me. I sat there in my car, the picture on my phone burning a hole in my screen. I waited. They'll have dinner, I thought, a cold, numb logic taking over. And then they'll go to a hotel. I'll follow them. I'll catch them in the act. And then I'll file for divorce. We didn't have any children yet. A clean break. I opened the glove compartment and checked to make sure my pepper spray was still there. It was. I sat back, took a sip of water from the bottle in the cup holder, and waited. Inside the restaurant, Chloe was feeling a strange, unfamiliar heat rise within her. She was starting to want to be Ethan's girlfriend. She was curious. She'd spent her college years focused on her studies, never really dating, never being in love. She wanted to know what it felt like, and the man sitting across from her, this kind, handsome married man, he was the one she had chosen for her first experiment. After they finished eating, she leaned across the table, her voice a low, seductive whisper. "Do you want to try something?" she asked, her eyes holding his. "We could go to a hotel." His face flushed. He stammered, I should really be getting home." His words were a refusal, but his body told a different story. A current of electricity passed through him, a visible shiver. What man could resist a beautiful, intelligent young woman, a virgin, offering herself so freely? Chloe, however, was clever. She didn't push. She simply sat back, a picture of grace. "Okay," she said softly. "Then we should probably head back." The moment she stood up to leave, he felt a pang of regret. A virgin. An offer like that didn't come along every day. He followed her out to the car, opening the door for her like a gentleman. From across the street, I watched them, my stomach churning with a toxic mix of rage and heartbreak. I wanted to run over there, to claw at both of their faces, but I held back. "Not yet," I told myself. "Be patient." His car pulled out of the parking lot. I started my engine and followed, keeping a safe distance. But he didn't turn towards the nearest hotel. He drove straight back to the office building. Relief washed over me, so potent it almost made me dizzy. Just a little. He hadn't crossed the line. Not yet. He was just tempted, infatuated. This was salvageable. But now I needed someone to deal with Chloe for me. And who better to do that than Clara? I picked up my phone and dialed her number. She answered on the first ring, her voice wary. "Hello, Hannah? Did you deal with Chloe?" "Listen," I said, my voice flat and bored. "I'm too busy for this childish drama. If Ethan likes her, then fine. Let him have her. I don't really care anymore." Clara was stunned into silence. "What? You're just going to give up your husband. Just like that. He's not worth the fight, I said, injecting a weary sigh into my voice. Honestly, Clara, if you care about him so much, you should probably do something about it yourself. By the way, I added, delivering the final, venomous blow, I think they just came from a hotel. They were kissing in his car. I'm done. He's all yours now. You and that other girl can share him for all I care. I hung up, leaving Clara on the other end of the line, my words echoing in her ears. Hotel, kissing. The poison was spreading. The trap was set. Now, all I had to do was sit back and watch the fireworks. I went home, took a long hot shower, and climbed into bed. Let them tear each other apart. Why should I get my hands dirty? As for my darling husband, oh, I had a special plan for him. The next day, the office was a tinderbox. The news that Ethan and Chloe had gone to a hotel together, a lie I had so carefully planted, had ignited a firestorm in Clara's soul. She was a woman on the verge of spontaneous combustion. Every time Ethan and Chloe spoke, every time they laughed, Clara's rage grew hotter. She spent the day plotting. As soon as work was over, she followed Chloe out of the building. So, Clara began, her voice dripping with sarcasm, as they walked towards the parking garage. Where did you and Ethan go last night? Chloe, high on what she perceived as a victory, couldn't resist twisting the knife. Oh, we just went out. Dinner. A date, you could say. It was very romantic, sweet, and some other things that are none of your business. The imagined confirmation of my lie was too much for Clara. She snapped. She swung her hand and slapped Chloe across the face. Smack. Chloe, stunned for a second, reacted instantly. She slapped Clara back, twice, her own slaps hard and vicious. She pointed a trembling finger in Clara's face. You psycho bitch. You stay away from me. Ethan is mine now. A washed-up, desperate old hag like you doesn't stand a chance. So why don't you just fuck off before I make you? Clara dropped her purse, ready to launch herself at Chloe, when Ethan's voice cut through the tense air. He was walking out of the elevator. Chloe, can you come back to the office for a second? I need your help with this report before I send it to Marcus. Chloe shot Clara a triumphant, mocking smile, then turned and followed Ethan back inside. What was that all about? Ethan asked as they walked. Clara looked like she was about to explode. Chloe put on her best damsel in distress face. It's because you took me to the client meeting instead of her, she whimpered, her eyes welling up with fake tears. She's so angry with me. She even hit me. I don't know what to do, Ethan. I'm scared of her. She what? Ethan said, his voice hardening. That's unacceptable. Don't worry, Chloe. I'll take care of this. Really? She said, her voice small and hopeful. She looped her arm through his. You'll protect me, won't you? She's so aggressive. I'm so scared. From the parking garage, Clara watched them, arm in arm, walking back into the building. The sight was a physical blow. The rage inside her reached a critical point. That's it, she thought, her vision turning red. That little bitch has to go. She went home and made a call. She gathered her reinforcements. It was time for war. That evening, Ethan came home at his usual time, a picture of domestic normality. But in his mind, he was now juggling two women, his wife and the sweet, innocent girl at the office who needed his protection. I, of course, pretended not to notice a thing. I cooked his favorite meal. Honey, he said as I served him dinner, let's go out tonight. We eat at home too often. I looked at him, a sweet smile on my face. Eating at home is boring, you think? So you want to go out and try something new. The double meaning was sharp enough to cut glass, but it sailed right over his head. Yeah, let's go. he said, completely oblivious. Meanwhile, Chloe was just arriving at her apartment building. As she opened the door to her ground floor unit, a shadow fell over her. Going somewhere, little girl. It was Clara. And she wasn't alone. She had brought 5 of her friends, a menacing girl gang ready for a fight. Chloe's face went pale. Her voice trembled. Clara. What do you want? Clara sneered. What do I want? I want to beat the shit out of you. You think you can steal my man and get away with it? I didn't. Chloe stammered. I don't even like Ethan. You have to believe me. Oh, really? Just this afternoon you were taunting me, telling me how romantic your little date was. Now you're scared. Clara and her friends laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. Girls, she commanded, get her. They swarmed her. They grabbed her by the hair, slapping her again and again. Chloe fought back, kicking and screaming, but it was 6 against 1. They dragged her inside, tearing at her clothes. Clara's voice was a vicious hiss in her ear. You want my husband. Let's see how he likes you after I'm done with you. They held her down, one of them producing a pair of scissors. They cut her clothes to shreds, leaving her exposed and humiliated. The pain was immense, but the shame was worse. She sobbed, begging them to stop, but her pleas only seemed to fuel their frenzy. They were a pack of wolves, and she was their prey. They beat her until she was black and blue. Then they took the scissors to her hair, hacking it off in jagged, uneven chunks, leaving her nearly bald. She lay on the cold concrete floor of her own apartment, a broken, weeping mess. Her apartment was on a quiet, dead-end street. No one heard her screams. No one came to help. When they were finally done, their arms tired from the assault, Clara delivered the final, cruel blow. She picked up a 10-liter can of cooking oil from Chloe's kitchen and poured it all over her, from her head to her toes. Chloe was now a greasy, glistening, pathetic creature. Her few remaining strands of hair slicked to her scalp. Clara leaned down, a triumphant smile on her grotesquely swollen face. So, how does it feel? How does it feel to be bathed in oil? Chloe's own mouth was now swollen and bleeding. 2 of her teeth were broken. She couldn't speak, only cry. Just then, they heard a car approaching, a neighbor. Clara and her friends scrambled, running out of the apartment and disappearing into the night. The neighbor, seeing the open door and hearing the faint sobs, came to investigate and found Chloe. He called an ambulance immediately. Clara and her gang went home, high on the adrenaline of their victory. There, Clara thought, a grim satisfaction settling in her chest. Let's see you try to seduce anyone now. If I can't have him, no one can. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Sarah. Hannah, did you hear? That woman from your husband's office, Clara? She was arrested. What? Arrested for what? Selling drugs. No, for assault. She and her friends beat up some new girl from the office. Almost killed her, from what I hear. The poor girl is in the hospital. The video of the beating was all over the internet last night, but it's been taken down now. I sat up in bed, stunned. She beat up Chloe? Seriously? Yeah. Who's Chloe? Is she the one who was after your husband? No, I said quickly. Nothing to do with Ethan. Must be some other guy. Well, I saved a copy of the video before it was deleted. You want to see it? Yes, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Send it to me. She did. I watched it, my stomach churning. It was brutal, worse than anything I could have imagined. Chloe was unrecognizable, a bruised, bloody, bald mess, covered in oil. It was the most vicious thing I had ever seen. I thought to myself, if Chloe still goes after Ethan after this, she's not human. She's a monster. If it had been me, I would be scared of men for the rest of my life. Clara was more ruthless than I ever could have imagined. But life, as they say, is stranger than fiction. The moment Ethan heard that Chloe was in the hospital, he rushed to her side. He told me he was going to pick up Marcus, his boss. An early meeting, he'd said. His movements rushed as he knotted his tie, his eyes avoiding mine. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, a coffee mug warming my hands, and watched him. The man I thought I knew was disappearing before my very eyes, replaced by a stranger who wore his face. "Ethan," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "Did you hear about what happened with that woman from your office, Clara?" He paused, his back to me. "No. What about her and the new girl, Chloe?" Apparently, Clara attacked her. It was brutal. There was a video online. I watched his reflection in the mirror. A flicker of something, panic, crossed his features before he smoothed it away. "I don't really pay attention to office gossip," he said, his voice clipped. He grabbed his briefcase. "Look, I've got to run, or I'll be late. I'll see you tonight." He kissed my cheek, a quick, dismissive peck that felt like a betrayal in itself, and then he was gone. I stood there for a long moment, the coffee in my mug growing cold. He knows, I thought. He knows everything, and he lied. Again. I walked over to the kitchen counter and picked up my phone. I opened the location sharing app. His icon, a little blue dot with his smiling face in the center, was moving steadily across the city map, not towards Marcus's office building, but towards the city hospital. I sank onto a kitchen stool, the phone clutched in my hand, my world shrinking to that single, glowing dot. He was with her. My husband was with another woman, and he was lying to me about it. The man who had promised to take care of the world for me was actively, consciously, destroying mine. When Ethan arrived at the hospital, the sight of Chloe shocked him to his core. Her face was a grotesque mask of purple and yellow bruises, her lips split and swollen. Her head was wrapped in bandages, hiding the butchered remains of her hair. She looked so small, so fragile, lying in the stark white bed. And in that moment, a tidal wave of guilt crashed over him. This was his fault. He was the reason for this. It was because of him that Clara had become so unhinged. He was the prize they were fighting over, and Chloe was the casualty. He felt a profound, aching responsibility, a desperate need to make it right. "Chloe," he whispered, sitting down beside her bed. "I am so sorry." Tears welled in her bruised eyes. "It's not your fault," she rasped, her voice hoarse. "Yes, it is," he insisted, his voice thick with emotion. "And I'm going to fix it. I promise you. Clara will be fired, and I'll take care of you. I'll make sure you have everything you need." He promised to find a way to have Clara fired from the company. As he sat there, holding Chloe's hand, comforting her, promising her protection, a new bond was being forged between them. One born from violence, guilt, and a dangerous, burgeoning intimacy. Meanwhile, thanks to a high-powered attorney father and a hefty settlement paid to Chloe's family, Clara was released. The legal troubles vanished as quickly as they had appeared. She walked back into the office the following week, as if nothing had happened, a defiant smirk on her face. But her triumph was short-lived. Ethan was waiting for her. On her desk was a cardboard box filled with the contents of her drawers. "You're fired," he said, his voice devoid of any emotion. She stared at him, then at the box, her face a mixture of shock and fury. "What? You can't fire me. On what grounds?" "Marcus has already approved it. It's done. Pack your things and get out of this building." "This is because of her, isn't it?" she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. "You're taking that little tramp's side against me. "Just go, Clara. I'm going to talk to Marcus," she shrieked. "He's on vacation in Europe for the next 3 weeks," Ethan said calmly. "By the time he's back, this will be old news. Now, get out, before I call security." Defeated, humiliated, Clara threw the last of her belongings into the box and stormed out. Her final, parting glare, a promise of future vengeance. With Clara gone, Ethan's visits to the hospital became a daily ritual. After work, he would go straight to Chloe's side, bringing her food, flowers, books. He was her sole protector, her knight in shining armor. And Chloe, in turn, played the part of the grateful, wounded bird perfectly. "I'm so glad you're here," she'd say, her voice weak and breathy. "You're the only one who makes me feel safe." One evening, as he was about to leave, she clung to his hand. "Please don't go yet," she whispered. "I'm scared to be alone. Will you? Will you just hold me for a minute?" He hesitated, but then he looked at her broken, tear-streaked face, and his resolve melted. He sat on the edge of her bed and gently wrapped his arms around her. She sighed, melting into his chest. They stayed like that for a long time, in a silence that was more intimate than any conversation. And that was the scene that greeted me when I arrived. I had decided I couldn't stay away any longer. I needed to see them together with my own eyes. I bought a ridiculously large fruit basket, a perfect prop for my role as the concerned wife, and walked into the hospital. My heart, a cold, heavy stone in my chest. I saw them through the small window in her door before they saw me. They were hugging. Not a quick, friendly hug. It was a lingering, tender embrace. His hand was stroking her bandaged head. She was nestled against his chest as if she belonged there. The sight stole the breath from my lungs. It was a physical pain, a sharp, twisting knife in my gut. I stood there for a moment, composing myself, painting a bright, brittle smile on my face. Then I pushed the door open. Well, what have we here?" I chirped, my voice a symphony of false cheer. "Ethan, honey, you're here too." They sprang apart, as if they'd been electrocuted. Ethan's face went pale. He jumped to his feet, stammering, "Hannah, what are you doing here?" "I heard what happened to poor Chloe," I said, walking further into the room and placing the fruit basket on the table with a thud. "I just wanted to stop by and see how she was doing." Chloe looked at me, not with fear or shame, but with a cool, triumphant confidence. She had won, and she knew it. I turned my sweet, smiling face to her. "Are you feeling any better, dear?" What Clara did was just monstrous. But my goodness, what did you ever do to make her that angry? The question was a velvet-gloved slap. Chloe just smiled faintly. "I didn't do anything to her. The woman is insane." The air in the room was thick enough to choke on. I looked at my husband, the anger simmering just beneath my skin, and then I smiled at him, my eyes full of a love that was now mixed with poison. "It's so nice that you have some free time today, sweetheart," I said, my voice dripping with honey. "You always seem so busy these days." He just stood there, frozen, unable to speak. Just then, his phone rang, a lifeline. He practically dove for it, mumbling, "I have to take this," and scurried out of the room. Now, it was just the two of us. Chloe looked at me, her expression unreadable. "I'm fine, Hannah. You can go home now." "Oh, she's dismissing me," I thought, a fresh wave of rage washing over me. In her hospital bed, looking like she went 10 rounds with a lawnmower. And she's dismissing me. "I'll wait for my husband," I said, my voice turning cold. "We'll go home together, unless... Is there some reason you're so anxious for me to leave? Are you afraid of something? Why don't you just leave first? Why do you have to wait for him?" My smile vanished. My voice dropped to a low, dangerous whisper. Because, my dear, my husband is surrounded by a lot of cheap, trashy women. I have to be careful. I have to protect what's mine. You understand, don't you? Her eyes widened. She knew exactly what I meant. What? What are you trying to say? I walked over to her bed. I reached out and gently stroked a jagged, shaved patch on her head where her hair had been. This, I whispered, is just the beginning. If you don't learn your lesson from this, someone else will come along to teach it to you, a much better teacher than Clara. She flinched, her eyes darting towards the door, looking for Ethan to save her. Looking for someone? I asked, my voice mocking. It's none of your business. Just get out. I leaned in closer, my face just inches from hers. I picked up a glass of water from her bedside table. Here, I said, my voice sickeningly sweet. You look thirsty. I don't want it. I grabbed her chin, forced her mouth open, and poured the entire glass of water down her throat. She choked and sputtered, water dribbling down her chin. I squeezed her jaw, my nails digging into her skin. Listen to me, you little bitch, I hissed, the last remnants of my composure gone. I know everything. You and that other whore. If you want my husband so badly, then get on your knees and beg me for him. Maybe, if you beg nicely enough, I'll give him to you. She stared at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and disbelief. What did you say? You heard me. Beg, and I'll walk away. I'll let him be with you. But if you don't, you'll live a life worse than death. I will make you suffer in ways you can't even imagine. So, what's it going to be? And then, the unthinkable happened. She actually did it. With tears of humiliation streaming down her bruised face, she struggled to move, to push herself off the bed. She slid down onto the cold, tiled floor and knelt before me. I stood there, speechless. Please, she sobbed, her head bowed. Please, give Ethan to me. I looked down at the pathetic creature kneeling at my feet, and I felt nothing but contempt. I didn't want Ethan to see this. I didn't want him to see how low she could sink. Get up, I said, my voice flat. He's yours. Try to hold on to him. I don't care anymore. I was lying, of course. I would never let either of them off that easily. But for now, the game had changed. I had lost. I walked out of the room and saw Ethan coming back down the hall. Are you leaving? He asked. Yes, I said. Are you coming with me? It was a test. A final, desperate plea. I looked into his eyes, hoping to see a flicker of the man I had married. But there was nothing. He lied again. He said he had work to do, but I knew he was staying. To take care of her. I walked away, my composure holding, until I got outside the hospital doors. Then, the dam broke. I stumbled to my car, got in, and just let it all out. I sobbed, deep, gut-wrenching sobs that shook my entire body. People walking by stared at me, some with pity, some with alarm. A few even stopped to ask if I was okay. I just shook my head, unable to speak, the tears blurring the world into a meaningless watercolor of pain. I had officially lost my husband. Chloe eventually recovered. By the time she was discharged, her relationship with Ethan had deepened. He was consumed by a mixture of guilt and a strange, intoxicating curiosity. He was dying to know what it would be like to be with a virgin, and she was eager to find out. They were happy, and I was alone. He was still living with me, still playing the part of the loving husband. He would still kiss me goodnight. His arms still felt warm around me. But his heart now held another woman's image. He wanted us both. He wanted to add, not subtract. But a marriage is not a math equation. You cannot divide a heart and expect it to remain whole. After 2 weeks of wallowing in my own misery, something inside me snapped. I woke up one morning, looked at my tear-stained face in the mirror, and said, "No more." I went to our joint safe, took out a substantial amount of cash, and went on a shopping spree. I bought myself the designer handbag I'd always wanted. The shoes I'd told myself were too extravagant. I met my friends for a long, boozy lunch. And when I came home, I was sweet to my husband. I cooked his favorite dinner. I smiled. I pretended that I knew nothing. The war for my husband was not over. It had just entered a new, more dangerous phase. Early the next morning, his phone rang. It was the unmistakable, secretive ringtone of a man with a lover. He scrambled out of bed, thinking I was still asleep, and tiptoed downstairs to the patio to take the call. I wasn't asleep. I had been lying there, rigid, since the first sliver of dawn had pierced our bedroom window. I slipped out of bed and followed him, a silent shadow in my own home. I pressed my ear to the cool glass of the patio door and listened. "Chloe," he whispered into the phone, "I told you not to call me when I'm at home. What if Hannah finds out?" Her voice, tinny and demanding through the phone, was still audible. "She already knows, Ethan." "So what are you so afraid of?" He sighed, a wave of sweat breaking out on his forehead. "She knows." "How?" "She's been acting completely normal. I don't know how, but she does. And honestly, it's better this way. Aren't you going to divorce her so we can be together?" "Divorce her?" he stammered. We agreed this was just an affair. I can't just leave my wife to marry you." "Then fine," she snapped. "Go be with your wife. I'll find someone else, someone who will appreciate this." I knew what this meant. Her virginity, the prize she was holding over his head. He hesitated, the bait too tempting to resist. Okay, I'll come see you later. I'll pick you up after work." I heard enough. I crept back upstairs, my heart a block of ice. I got back into bed and pretended to be asleep. A few minutes later, he came back into the room. I stirred, opening my eyes as if I was just waking up. "Good morning," I said, my voice soft and sleepy. "Hey," he said, trying to sound casual. "You sleep well?" "Like a baby," I lied. "Are you busy today?" "I was thinking we could go visit your mom." I can't," he said, already pulling a shirt over his head. I have to go pick up Marcus. We have a work thing." Another lie. It came so easily to him now. I got out of bed, walked over to him, and wrapped my arms around his neck. "Okay, honey," I purred, pressing myself against him. "Then come home early tonight. You owe me a dinner date, remember? If you forget, I'll be very, very upset." He kissed my forehead, the gesture now feeling hollow and rehearsed. "I won't forget." He went downstairs. I followed a few moments later, a fresh cup of coffee in my hand. I went to the fridge and took out the small, unlabeled bottle of laxatives, the strong, industrial kind. I poured a generous amount into his coffee, stirring it until it dissolved completely. "I feel bad for you, honey," I murmured to the empty kitchen. "But you left me no choice." I carried the cup upstairs, my hand steady. "Here, sweetheart," I said, my voice a gentle caress. "Drink this before you go. To help you wake up." He took the mug, his eyes full of a fake, manufactured affection. "You're the best, Hannah." "Thank you." He downed the entire cup in one go. "Delicious," he said, wiping his mouth. "Okay, I'm off. Be good. I'll see you tonight. I love you." I just nodded, watching him walk out the door. Good luck, I thought. I suddenly felt a pang of guilt. What if he's actually going with Marcus? He'll be shitting himself on the highway. But the thought passed as quickly as it came. Whatever. He drank it. It's too late to change things now. He picked up Chloe, as promised. They drove straight to a hotel. The moment they were inside the room, they fell on each other like starving animals. He kissed her, his hands exploring her body, the heat between them building to a fever pitch. She had been waiting for this moment for so long, had endured so much to get here. She closed her eyes, ready for the sweet, romantic consummation she had imagined. But just as things were reaching their peak, a small, unfortunate sound escaped from Ethan. Then, a foul, sulfurous smell filled the air. Chloe's eyes snapped open. She wrinkled her nose, pushing him away slightly. My God, Ethan, did you just fart right now? He went beet red. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. Just then, a low, ominous rumble started in his gut. A sudden, urgent cramp seized him. He couldn't hold it. He jumped up and sprinted to the bathroom. Chloe lay on the bed, pouting. The mood was completely shattered. A few minutes later, he came out, looking pale. I'm sorry, he said again. My stomach is really upset for some reason. It's okay, she said, her pout softening. Come here. We haven't even started yet. He climbed back onto the bed, eager to make up for his indiscretion. He leaned in to kiss her, his body pressing against hers. And then it happened again. A second, more violent wave of cramping. He bolted from the bed and ran back to the bathroom, barely making it in time. Chloe sat up, furious. She grabbed a pillow and threw it at the closed bathroom door. What the hell is wrong with him? This is the worst first time ever. He came out a few minutes later, clutching his stomach. Chloe, I don't know what's happening. I have to go. What's wrong? She asked, her voice now laced with irritation. He tried to salvage the moment. He tried to hug her, to kiss her again, to reignite the spark. But his body betrayed him once more. This time, he didn't even make it to the bathroom. It happened right there, on her pristine, white hotel bed. The smell was indescribable. Chloe screamed, a sound of pure horror and disgust. She jumped off the bed, grabbed her clothes, and ran out of the room. This is disgusting, she shrieked as she left. Ethan was left there, alone, in a haze of shame and filth. He came home 2 hours later, looking like a defeated soldier returning from a lost war. I was lounging on the sofa, eating a pastry, the picture of domestic bliss. You're back early, I said, my voice innocent. I thought you'd be out with Marcus all day. The meeting was canceled, he mumbled, not looking at me. Is there anything to eat? I'm starving. All that running must have made you hungry, I thought with a grim satisfaction. Serves you right, you cheating bastard. Aloud I said, let's go out. I'm hungry too. At the restaurant, I snuggled up to him, taking selfies of us, hand in hand, my head on his shoulder. I immediately posted them on social media, with a caption dripping with saccharine sweetness, always being spoiled by my wonderful hubby. Love him so much, I knew she would see it. And, as I had predicted, his phone started buzzing almost immediately. I need to take this, he said, getting up from the table and walking outside. I could see him through the window, pacing back and forth, his voice a low, placating murmur. I just sat there, calmly eating my dinner. He kept glancing back at me, a worried look on his face. I just smiled at him, a serene, beatific smile. After a few minutes of heated conversation, he hung up and came back inside. The encounter seemed to have drained him. He looked at me, sitting there so calmly, and a strange expression crossed his face. He was beginning to realize that his innocent, loving wife was perhaps not so innocent after all. Who was that? I asked sweetly. Oh, just Marcus. A work thing. Another lie. But this time, it was weak, transparent. I just smiled. The next day at the office, Chloe was a storm cloud of fury. She had been humiliated, her romantic fantasy destroyed in the most disgusting way imaginable. She ignored Ethan all morning. He tried to talk to her, to apologize, but she brushed him off. Finally, at lunchtime, when everyone else had left, she cornered him. She wrapped her arms around his neck, her body pressing against his. "What's wrong with you?" she whispered, her voice a mixture of anger and seduction. "Why are you avoiding me?" "I'm not," he said, trying to gently push her away. "Chloe, people will see." "So? Let them see," she hissed, her hands starting to wander over his body. "Are you going to come to my place tonight? I miss you. I want to hold you." He hesitated. Half of him wanted to run. The other half was still intrigued. She felt his hesitation and pressed her advantage, her touch becoming more insistent. "Do you like this?" she murmured. He nodded. A weak, helpless gesture. "Then I'll be waiting for you tonight." And that night, he started lying again. "Honey, I have to go out again tonight. A work thing. Don't wait up for me." I watched him get ready, a cold, hard knot forming in my stomach. I had given him a warning, a disgusting, humiliating warning. And still, he was choosing her. Fine. This time, I wouldn't be so subtle. He got home late from Marcus's barbecue that night, smelling of beer and grilled meat. I had already set the stage. "Honey, I'm home," he called out. "In the bathroom," I called back. "Can you bring me a towel?" He came into the bathroom to find me in the shower. "I'm going to head out for a bit," he said, trying to sound casual. "Okay," I said, my voice muffled by the sound of the water. "Can you take a shower first? You smell like a brewery." He agreed. It was hot, and a shower sounded like a good idea. He stripped off his clothes and stepped into the shower with me. I took the opportunity to lather him up with a special soap I had prepared, a soap infused with the same concentrated capsaicin oil I had used on his underwear. He didn't notice a thing. He got out, dried himself off, and put on the clean clothes I had laid out for him. Another pair of silk boxers, this time meticulously coated with the invisible fire. He kissed me goodbye and left. I got out of the shower, turned off my phone, and went to bed. "Let's see how you perform tonight, you bastard." He drove to her apartment, the burning sensation starting to build. He tried to ignore it, scratching himself discreetly as he drove. By the time he arrived, it was a full-blown 5-alarm fire. He looked down and saw that the entire area was red, swollen, and starting to blister. "What the hell is happening to me?" he thought, panic rising in his chest. Chloe, however, was ready. She had been waiting for this moment, and she was not going to be denied again. She opened the door wearing a scandalously flimsy negligee. The sight of her, all soft curves and exposed skin, was enough to make him forget the pain for a moment. "What took you so long?" she purred, pulling him inside. She threw herself into his arms, kissing him passionately, but he kept wincing, his hands instinctively going to his crotch. She pushed him onto the bed and climbed on top of him, her hands fumbling with his belt buckle. "What's wrong?" she asked, her voice breathy with desire. "You seem uncomfortable." I'm in a lot of pain," he managed to gasp out. She thought he was just excited. "I know," she whispered, her hands finally reaching their destination. "Me too." But when she touched him, he yelped in agony. The flimsy fabric of his boxers was now fused to his blistered skin. She looked down, and her eyes went wide with horror. His entire groin was a swollen, red, blistering mess. "Oh my God," she screamed, recoiling as if she'd been burned. What is wrong with you? What disease do you have? He was mortified, humiliated beyond words. I don't know, he stammered. It just happened. Get out, she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at the door. Get out of my house. You're disgusting. He scrambled to his feet, pulling up his pants, the pain now so intense he could barely think straight. I'm sorry, he mumbled. I'll make it up to you. There won't be a next time, she screamed. Don't you ever come near me again. He practically ran out of her apartment, his tail between his legs. I need to go to the hospital, he thought, his mind reeling. Right now, he drove home, calling me again and again. But my phone was off. He stood outside our front door, ringing the bell, pounding on the door, but I didn't answer. I was inside, lying in bed, watching his shadow through the window, a small, satisfied smile on my face. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he sat down on the front steps, defeated. I turned my phone back on. It immediately started ringing. Hello? I said, my voice thick with fake sleepiness. Hannah. Thank God. Let me in. I'm outside. I went to the door, my face a mask of concern. Ethan, what are you doing out here? I thought you weren't coming home tonight. Just let me in, he groaned. I need to go to the hospital. I'm in a lot of pain. Pain? Where? I asked, my eyes wide with fake innocence. He could barely speak. Down there. I helped him inside, and when he finally dropped his pants, I pretended to be horrified. Oh my God, Ethan. What happened to you? I feigned a gasp. Oops, I thought, looking at the raw, blistered skin. Maybe I used a little too much. I helped him put on a loose-fitting pair of pajama pants. This will be more comfortable, I said soothingly. Then I took his soiled clothes, including the evidence-laced boxers, and threw them straight into the washing machine, erasing all traces of my crime. I even helped him wash the affected area with warm water, a final, brilliant act of sabotage to ensure the doctors wouldn't detect the capsaicin. As I gently patted him dry, he looked at me with eyes full of guilt and gratitude. You're so good to me, Hannah, he whispered. And in that moment, I knew he was thinking about how he had betrayed me. At the hospital, the doctor took one look at him and scowled. You've been with a prostitute, haven't you? He asked, his voice full of disdain. Ethan's face went from pale to crimson. No, I haven't. Don't lie to me, the doctor snapped. I've seen this 100 times. You men think you can have your fun and not pay the price. Well, look at you now. I just smiled faintly. The evidence was all washed away. The doctor lectured him for a solid 10 minutes about the dangers of infidelity, about the beautiful wife he had at home, about the diseases he could bring back to his family. Ethan just sat there, head bowed in shame, unable to defend himself. I, of course, played the part of the long-suffering, loyal wife to perfection. Please, doctor, I said, my voice trembling with feigned emotion. Don't be so hard on him. I trust my husband. He would never do such a thing. He was admitted to the hospital for observation. He was diagnosed with a severe allergic reaction. The prescription, a month of abstinence, no activity whatsoever until he was completely healed. I went into the hospital bathroom and laughed until tears streamed down my face. A month, I thought, a giddy, triumphant feeling bubbling up inside me. Let's see you cheat on me now, you son of a bitch. And when you're healed, I'll be ready with another little surprise. The news of his injury spread through his office like wildfire. Someone, and I have my suspicions it was a still vengeful Clara, had started a rumor that he had contracted a venereal disease from a prostitute and had to have his penis put in a cast. Marcus, his boss, even called him to get the salacious details. "Hey, buddy," Marcus boomed over the phone. "Heard you had a little accident. Next time you go out for some fun, you gotta bring your wingman, you hear me? Sharing is caring." Ethan was mortified. It wasn't like that. It was an accident. He hung up, groaning in frustration. He walked into his office to a chorus of snickers and suppressed laughter. Only Chloe sat at her desk, her face an icy mask, refusing to even look at him. He stormed into Marcus's office, only to find his boss sporting 2 black eyes. "What happened to you?" Ethan asked, shocked. "My wife," Marcus grumbled. "She overheard our phone call. The part where I said you should have invited me. She thought." "Well, you know what she thought. So, next time, buddy, you're on your own." Back in his own office, Ethan tried to ignore the whispers, the sideways glances. Chloe walked past his desk, carrying a stack of files. He tried to get her attention, to apologize, but she wouldn't even look at him. She just walked past, her expression one of cold fury. As she passed, she accidentally dropped the heavy stack of files right onto his lap. He let out a strangled cry of agony, jumping up from his chair, the pain searing through him. The entire office fell silent, all eyes on him. Chloe just looked at him, a cold, dead smile on her face, before turning and walking away. That night, he came home early, as he did every night now. He was a changed man, quiet, subdued. After dinner, he would go into the bathroom, take off his pants, and meticulously apply the medicated cream the doctor had prescribed. I would watch him, a fake look of sympathy on my face, a triumphant laugh bubbling just beneath the surface. "Does it still hurt?" I'd ask, my voice full of fake concern. "A lot," he'd sigh. Sometimes, to avoid any accidental contact in bed, he would wait until I was asleep and then move to the floor. One night, I was pretending to be asleep when I heard his phone vibrate, a text message. He crept into the bathroom to read it, but I could hear his muffled whispers. It was her, Chloe. She was threatening to kill herself if he didn't come to her. The rage that I had been so carefully suppressing boiled over. He's still talking to her. Even after all this, he was still choosing her. He crept back into the room and slipped his phone under his pillow, thinking I was asleep. I waited a few minutes. Then I got out of bed, pretending to go to the bathroom. I knew he was lying on the floor. The room was dark, but not so dark that I couldn't see his sleeping form. I deliberately walked right over him, my foot landing squarely, accidentally, on his injured groin. He let out a silent, agonized scream, his body convulsing on the floor. "Oh my God," I cried, pretending to be startled. "Ethan, what are you doing on the floor? Are you okay?" He couldn't speak, just writhed in pain, his face a mask of pure agony. The result, another trip to the emergency room, another week in the hospital, and the same doctor, who now looked at him with utter contempt. "You were active again, weren't you?" the doctor accused, not even waiting for an answer. This time, when we were alone in the hospital room, Ethan looked at me, his eyes narrowed with a new, dawning suspicion. "It was you, wasn't it?" he said, his voice a low, dangerous growl. "All of this. It was you." The time for games was over. I dropped the sweet, innocent wife act. My face hardened. My voice turned to ice. "Yes," I said, hitting him on the head. "It was me. All of it. Did you really think you could cheat on me, lie to my face, and I wouldn't do anything? This is the price you pay for betrayal, Ethan." He stared at me, his mouth agape, as if seeing me for the first time. You're a monster." "And what are you?" I shot back. I gave you so many chances to change, to come back to me. And what did you do? You kept running back to her. Even last night, you were still whispering to her on the phone. Get out, he hissed, his voice trembling with a mixture of rage and fear. Get out of my sight. I never want to see you again. Fine, I said, a cold, brittle smile on my face. I'll go. I walked out of that hospital room and never looked back. I went home and called Chloe. Hey, you little whore, I said when she answered. Come to my house. You can pick up your boyfriend's shit. She was scared. I could hear it in her voice, a nervous tremor under her bravado. She thought it was a trap, that I was luring her to my house to enact some new, horrific revenge. She showed up with 5 of her friends, a nervous posse of backup, and stood on the sidewalk, refusing to come to the door. I opened the second-floor window and leaned out, a queen surveying her conquered territory. Up here, I called down. Chloe looked up, shielding her eyes from the sun. Open the door. I'm here to get Ethan's things. I laughed, a sound that was sharp and humorless. Why would I let you in my house? Just stay right there. I'll bring them down to you. And then I started throwing his life out the window. His expensive suits, his silk shirts, his Italian leather shoes. They rained down onto the manicured lawn, a chaotic storm of betrayal. His collection of antique vases, which he had so painstakingly acquired, shattered on the driveway, their delicate fragments glittering in the sun like fallen stars. Chloe and her friends watched, mouths agape, dodging the falling debris. Stop it, she screamed up at me. You'll ruin everything. I just clapped my hands, a mad conductor orchestrating the symphony of destruction. His dick is broken and you still want him, I yelled back. What's a few broken things compared to that? Now clean up this mess and get the hell off my property. He's all yours now, a gift from me to you. They stood there for a moment, hesitant, until I added, or I could let the dogs out. They're very good at cleaning up. That did the trick. They scrambled to gather the scattered remnants of his life, stuffing them into garbage bags, and then they were gone. I closed the window, and the silence of the empty house descended. And then, finally, I allowed myself to cry. At the hospital, Chloe arrived with the tattered remains of his wardrobe. She threw everything out the window, she said, her voice still shaky. It's all ruined. Ethan just stared at her, his face a mask of disbelief. She really did that. Yes, but it's okay, Chloe said, trying to sound soothing. She sat on his bed, taking his hand. You have me now. I'll take care of you. He looked at her, and for the first time, he felt a flicker of something other than guilt and lust. Gratitude. She was here. She was staying. We'll get a divorce, he said, his voice firm. And then we'll get married. Her face lit up. Oh, Ethan. Really? Yes, he said, his voice full of a newfound resolve. I'll provide for you. I'll make up for everything you've been through. That night, Chloe insisted on staying in the hospital with him, but there was only one bed. He was terrified of her accidentally touching his still healing injury, so he tried to refuse, but she pouted and sulked until he finally relented. He lay on the very edge of the mattress, a rigid, unmoving statue. As soon as her head hit the pillow, she was out. And then the snoring started. It wasn't a delicate, ladylike snore. It was a deep, guttural, rumbling sound, like a chainsaw cutting through concrete. It was so loud he was sure the patients in the next room could hear it. Sleep was impossible. He sat up, exhausted and in pain, when suddenly she started talking in her sleep, laughing, a wild, uninhibited sound, her arms flailing, her legs kicking. He was staring at her, bewildered, when one of her flailing legs caught him squarely in the groin. The pain was blinding, a white-hot explosion that sent him tumbling off the bed and onto the cold, hard floor. He lay there, gasping for breath, unable to even scream. He tried to call her name, to wake her up, but his voice was just a strangled whisper. She, of course, slept on, her snores now a triumphant roar. He finally managed to drag himself back to his feet, his body screaming in agony. He looked at the beautiful, angelic face of the woman sleeping in his bed, the woman who had just kicked him into a world of unimaginable pain, and he sighed. She's so beautiful, he thought, but this snoring, I'm going to be an insomniac for the rest of my life. The days that followed were a blur of lawyers and paperwork. I retreated into myself, a ghost in my own life. My mother, seeing my despair, tried to pull me back to the world of the living. You need to get out of this house, she'd say, her voice full of a gentle, persistent worry. Come stay with me for a while. I just shook my head. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to wallow. One night, unable to bear the oppressive silence of the house any longer, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went out, alone, to a bar. I sat in a dark corner, the low thrum of music, a welcome distraction from the screaming in my own head. I drank, a lot. The whiskey burned a welcome path down my throat, dulling the sharp edges of my pain. At closing time, the bartender gently cut me off. I paid my tab and stumbled out into the cool night air. I couldn't remember where I had parked my car. I started walking, my steps unsteady, weaving a drunken path down the sidewalk, occasionally stumbling into the street. A car horn blared behind me. I ignored it. Hey, lady, get on the sidewalk, a man's voice yelled from the car window. I kept walking, lost in my own miserable world. The car pulled over. The man got out. Hey, he said, grabbing my arm. Are you trying to get yourself killed? I tried to pull away, my drunken brain registering him as a threat. Let go of me. Who the hell are you? Look, he said, his voice firm, but not unkind. You can't just walk in the middle of the street like this. You're going to get hurt, and you're going to get someone else in trouble. Now, where do you live? I'll give you a ride. I looked at him then, really looked at him. He was handsome, in a rugged, unassuming way, and he seemed decent. Really, I slurred. Yes, really. Now, address. I gave it to him. He helped me into his car, a clean, spacious sedan that smelled faintly of leather and coffee. My name's Alex, he said as he drove. And you are? Hannah, I mumbled, and I'm married. Okay, he said, a small smile playing on his lips. So, where's your husband? Why is he letting you wander around drunk in the middle of the night? He's with his whore, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. He glanced at me, his expression softening with something that looked like pity. Ah, I see. One of those nights. We drove in silence for a few minutes, and then I passed out. The next thing I knew, he was gently shaking my shoulder. Hey, we're here. I opened my eyes, my head pounding. The world was spinning, I think. I think I'm going to be sick, I groaned. He quickly opened the car door, and I barely made it to the curb before I threw up. Everything. The whiskey, the bar nuts, the last remnants of my dignity. When I was done, I looked up to see that some of it had splattered on his shoes. Oh my God, I said, horrified. I am so sorry. It's okay, he said, though he looked a little green. No, it's not, I insisted. I fumbled in my purse and pulled out $200 bills, pressing them into his hand. Here, for the shoes, and the trauma. He tried to give it back, but I was insistent. Just take it, I said. Please. He sighed and stuffed the money in his pocket. Okay, Now, do you have your keys? Can you get inside? I searched my purse. No keys. I think I lost them. He looked at me, then at the sturdy-looking fence surrounding my front yard. Well, he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. Looks like you're going to have to climb. And so I did. In my tight dress and high heels, I climbed that fence, a graceless, drunken spider. He politely looked away. I made it over, landing in a heap on the other side. My dress tangled around my waist. I made it, I called out, my voice triumphant. You can go now. Are you sure you're okay? He called back. Perfectly, I yelled, stumbling towards my front door. I waved him away without looking back. He got in his car and drove off, but as he did, he found himself smiling. That woman, he thought, is a beautiful disaster. The next day, Ethan's mother, Eleanor, came to see him at the hospital. Chloe was there, sitting by his bed, peeling an apple for him. Eleanor took one look at her, and her lip curled in distaste. "What are you still doing here?" she said, her voice dripping with ice. A young, unmarried woman, practically living in a man's hospital room. "Have you no shame?" Chloe just looked at her, a defiant glint in her eyes. "Eleanor, I'm going to be his wife soon. This is where I belong." "Over my dead body," Eleanor snapped. She turned to Ethan, her eyes blazing. "And you, what have you been thinking? I heard everything from Hannah. How could you do this to her?" "You don't understand, Mom," Ethan said, his voice weak. She's the one who put me in here." "And whose fault is that?" she shot back. "You cheat on her, you lie to her, and you expect her to just sit back and take it. If it were me, I would have cut it off and fed it to the dogs. And this one," she said, pointing a trembling finger at Chloe, "this home-wrecking little tramp has no place in my family." "She's not a tramp," Ethan protested. "Oh, please," Eleanor scoffed. "A woman who preys on a married man has no happy ending. You mark my words." Chloe stood up, her eyes flashing. "You have no right to talk to me like that. You should be happy for your son. He's finally found someone who truly loves him." Ethan, caught in the crossfire, finally found his voice. "Mom, I'm going to divorce Hannah. It's over. I don't approve." "It's not your decision," he said, his voice hardening. "It's mine. I'm going to divorce her, and I'm going to marry Chloe." Eleanor was so furious she slapped him. Hard. "Fine. Then you're no son of mine. Go, be with this creature. But don't you ever step foot in my house again. And the house you and Hannah live in? I bought that house. It's in my name. I'm giving it to her. You're not getting a penny. You're on your own now." She stormed out of the room, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. Ethan was speechless. His own mother had just disowned him. Chloe rushed to his side. "Did you hear that? She's giving the house to Hannah. The house is worth millions. You can't let her do that. You have to fight for it. You have to get your share." He just looked at her, a dawning sense of dread creeping into his heart. He had lost his wife. He had lost his mother. And now, he was about to lose everything else. And for what? For a woman who was already talking about money, about assets, about what she was owed, before the ink on his divorce papers was even dry. He was starting to realize that the price of his affair was going to be much, much higher than he had ever imagined. I woke up the next morning with a hangover that felt like a tiny, angry blacksmith was hammering away inside my skull. My head was foggy, my memories of the previous night, a hazy, disjointed mess. I remembered a bar, a lot of whiskey, and then nothing. How did I get home? Where was my car? As I was piecing together the blurry fragments, the doorbell rang. It was the owner of the bar, a kind, middle-aged man with sympathetic eyes. He had found my address from a piece of mail in my purse and had driven my car to my house. The sight of him and the knowing, gentle smile on his face filled me with a fresh wave of humiliation. I promised myself right then and there that I would never, ever go drinking alone again. I was wandering through the empty, silent house, feeling utterly lost when Eleanor arrived. "Hannah, dear," she said, her voice heavy with a sorrow that mirrored my own. "I'm so sorry. He's divorcing me," I said, the words feeling like shards of glass in my mouth. She pulled me into a hug, her arms a surprising comfort. "I know." And I told him, "He is no longer my son. I will only ever have one daughter-in-law, and that is you." Her words, so full of a fierce, unwavering loyalty, broke through the dam of my composure. I collapsed into her arms and sobbed, all the pain and betrayal and humiliation pouring out of me. She just held me, stroking my hair, murmuring words of comfort until the storm of my grief finally passed. She stayed with me all afternoon, a quiet, steady presence in the wreckage of my life. She told me to fight for the house, to take everything he had, to make him pay, but I was too tired to fight anymore. I just wanted it to be over. That night, she insisted on staying with me. I woke up in the middle of the night, thirsty, and went downstairs to find her sitting in the dark, a lone, pensive silhouette in the moonlight. She was so lost in thought that she didn't hear me approach. She was trying to figure out a way to fix this, to bring her son back to me, to put the pieces of our broken lives back together. But some things, once shattered, can never be made whole again. The next morning, Ethan was discharged from the hospital. He moved into Chloe's small, rented apartment, a cramped, unfamiliar space that felt more like a cage than a home. The dynamic between them shifted almost immediately. The sweet, adoring girl he had rescued was replaced by a sullen, demanding woman who expected him to cater to her every whim. She didn't cook, she didn't clean. The apartment was a mess of takeout containers and discarded clothes. He found himself doing everything: the grocery shopping, the cooking, the laundry, all while she lay on the sofa, scrolling through her phone, complaining. "When are you going to talk to your mother about the house?" she'd ask, her voice a constant, nagging drone. "You can't just let Hannah have it all. It's worth millions. We need that money." He'd just sigh, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. Back at work, he ran into Marcus. "Hey, buddy," Marcus said, a cheerful grin on his face. "Good to see you back on your feet. We've got a new sheriff in town, by the way. The big boss's son is back from London to take over. He's in your old office." "The CEO's son?" Ethan asked, a new sense of unease settling over him. "Yep, name's Alex. Seems like a decent guy. You should probably go introduce yourself. Kiss the ring, you know?" I, meanwhile, was slowly starting to put my life back together. Eleanor's presence was a lifeline. She cooked for me, she cleaned for me, she forced me to eat. She was more of a mother to me than my own had ever been. One day, she came to me with a proposition. "I'm going to take a peace offering to Ethan," she said, a determined glint in her eye. "A home-cooked meal, his favorites. You're coming with me." "No," I said, my voice flat. "I'm not going." "Hannah, please," she begged, her eyes pleading. "Just one more time, for me." Men are stubborn, but they're not immune to a little sweetness, a little reminder of what they've lost. "If we do this, if he sees you, maybe he'll come to his senses." Her desperation was so palpable, her hope so fragile, that I found I couldn't refuse her. I let myself be convinced, against my better judgment, to try one last time. We arrived at his office building during the lunch hour. As we stepped into the elevator, a man got in with us. He was handsome, with kind eyes and a warm, easy smile. He looked at me, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "Don't I know you?" he asked. I stared at him, my mind a blank. "I don't think so." Eleanor, however, had no such filter. "Are you a friend of Hannah's?" she asked, her voice booming in the small space. "Do you work here?" "My good-for-nothing son, Ethan, he works here. He's having an affair with one of his colleagues, a little tramp named Chloe. We're on our way to see him now, to try and talk some sense into him." The man's eyes widened. "Oh, I see. I just started here, actually. I don't really know anyone yet." The elevator doors opened, and he quickly excused himself. "Well, it was nice meeting you both." Eleanor, however, was not done. "Wait," she called after him. "Do you know where the sales department is? That's where you'll find them. Ethan and Chloe. You can't miss them. They're the ones who look like shameless adulterers." I grabbed her arm, mortified. "Mom, stop it. You can't just tell our personal business to a complete stranger." "Why not?" she said, her voice loud and defiant. "He should know. The whole world should know what they've done." We walked down the hall to Ethan's office. The door was closed. Eleanor knocked. Inside, Ethan and Chloe were not eating lunch. They were engaged in a heated, passionate embrace, their mouths locked, their hands exploring. "Who is it?" Chloe mumbled against his lips, annoyed at the interruption. "I don't know," Ethan said, pulling away reluctantly. "Probably just someone from accounting." He opened the door and froze. His face went from flushed with passion to pale with shock. "Mom? Hannah? What? What are you doing here?" "We brought you lunch," Eleanor said, holding up the container of food, her voice a little too bright. "Your favorites." He just stared at us, his face a mask of anger and resentment. "What are you doing here?" he repeated, his voice now a low growl. "And you?" he said, his eyes locking on mine. "Get out. I never want to see you again. You're a cruel, vindictive woman." Eleanor slapped him, hard. "How dare you speak to her like that? You are coming home with us, right now." "No," he said, his voice cold and final. "I'm not. I'm staying here. With Chloe." I stood there, a silent statue, the container of food growing heavy in my hands. The last fragile thread of hope inside me snapped. It was over. Really, truly over. Chloe appeared in the doorway behind him, a triumphant smirk on her face. "Still haven't accepted the truth, have you?" "Hannah," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. "He doesn't love you anymore. He loves me. So why don't you just take your little food container and go home? Stop humiliating yourself." Something inside me broke. The pain, the rage, the humiliation. It all coalesced into a single, blinding flash of white-hot fury. I opened the container of food, a rich, fragrant beef stew, still warm, and I threw it. The stew hit Chloe square in the face. She shrieked, stumbling backwards, the thick, brown gravy dripping down her face, chunks of beef and carrots clinging to her hair. I launched myself at her, my hands transformed into claws, and we went down in a tangled heap of flailing limbs and guttural screams. Eleanor cheered me on from the sidelines. "Yes, get her, Hannah. Teach that little whore a lesson." Ethan pulled me off of her, his hands like iron bands on my arms. "Are you crazy?" he yelled, his face contorted with rage. He pushed me away, sending me sprawling onto the floor. He stood over me, his hand raised, ready to strike. And then a new voice cut through the chaos. A calm, authoritative voice that stopped him in his tracks. "That's enough." It was the man from the elevator, Alex. He walked over, helped me to my feet, and then turned to face Ethan, his eyes cold as steel. "A man who hits a woman," he said, his voice low and dangerous, "is not a man at all." Eleanor rushed to his side. "Oh, thank God you're here. This bastard, my own son, was about to hit her." Alex just nodded, his eyes never leaving Ethan's face. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll take them home." Just then, Chloe stumbled out of the office, still covered in stew, and grabbed Ethan's arm. "Let's go, honey," she whined. "I need to go wash this off. It smells disgusting." They turned to leave, but Eleanor's voice stopped them. "Ethan, are you sure about this?" Chloe answered for him. "Are you still delusional? It's over." Eleanor just looked at her son, her face a mixture of sorrow and disgust. "Fine, then I'm done. We'll get the divorce papers drawn up. And then, Hannah, we will find you a new husband, a better husband." She turned to Alex, a speculative glint in her eye. "You, for example, are you married?" Alex, to my utter shock, just smiled. "No, ma'am, I'm not." "Well, then," Eleanor said, a triumphant smile spreading across her face, "perhaps you'd be interested in pursuing my daughter-in-law, once she's single, of course." And Alex, this handsome, kind stranger, looked at me, his eyes full of a surprising warmth, and said, "I would be honored." I just stood there, my mouth agape, as my mother-in-law, in the middle of a crowded office hallway, in the immediate aftermath of a full-blown physical assault, started playing matchmaker for me with my husband's new boss. The world had officially gone insane. Alex drove us home. In the car, Eleanor was a whirlwind of righteous fury, cursing her son, praising Alex, and planning my new, fabulous, single life. I just stared out the window, the world a meaningless blur. "Don't be sad," Alex said, his voice gentle. "If you still love him, maybe he'll come back." "No," Eleanor said, her voice firm. "That kind of man, the kind who cheats and then blames his wife, he's not worth waiting for. Hannah is a strong, independent woman. She doesn't need a man like that." She was right, of course, but it still hurt. When we got to my house, Eleanor insisted on getting Alex's number. "For future reference," she said with a wink. I just shook my head. My mother-in-law was a force of nature. That night, I overheard her on the phone, her voice a low, conspiratorial whisper. She was talking to Alex. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. A note on the kitchen counter saying she had an errand to run. She was meeting Alex for coffee. "I have a favor to ask you," she said, her voice serious. "I want you to hire Hannah. I want you to give her a good position at your company, a position where she will be Ethan's superior." Alex looked at her, a slow smile spreading across his face. "You want him to see what he's lost, don't you?" "I want him to suffer," she said, her voice cold as ice. "I want him to see her every day, successful and happy and powerful. And I want him to know that he threw it all away for a piece of trash." "I can do that," Alex said. "But I don't think she'll agree. She won't want to work in the same building as him." "Leave that to me," Eleanor said, a determined glint in her eye. "I can be very persuasive." She tried, she begged, she pleaded, she cajoled, but I refused. The thought of seeing Ethan and Chloe every day was more than I could bear. I just wanted peace. But Chloe, it seemed, was not done with me yet. A few days later, I was driving home from the grocery store when a motorcycle pulled up beside me at a stoplight. The man on the back, his face obscured by a helmet, called out to me, "Excuse me, miss. Can you give me directions?" I rolled down my window, ready to help. As I did, he reached out, and something sharp and cold slashed across my face. Then The motorcycle sped off, disappearing into the traffic. I didn't understand what had happened until I felt the warm, wet trickle of blood running down my cheek. I pulled over, my hands trembling, and looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. A deep, ugly gash ran from my temple to the corner of my mouth. The world went black. When I woke up, the sterile smell of antiseptic filled my nostrils. I was in a hospital bed. Eleanor was sitting beside me, her face pale with worry. Alex was there too, his handsome features etched with a grim concern. 26 stitches. That's what it took to close the wound on my face. 26 tiny black threads holding the pieces of my life together. Eleanor was convinced it was Chloe. That little bitch, she fumed, pacing the small hospital room. She's not just a homewrecker, she's a psychopath. I'm going to the police. I'm going to have her arrested. She did. She gave them Chloe's name, her address, her motive. But the road where I was attacked had no cameras. There were no witnesses. There was no evidence. It was my word against hers. Nothing could be done. Alex, however, had another idea. This changes things, he said, his voice low and serious as he and Eleanor stood in the hallway outside my room. Hannah can't go back to her old life. It's not safe. She needs to be somewhere I can protect her. You mean, at the company? Eleanor asked, a flicker of hope in her eyes. Yes, he said. I'm going to make her an offer she can't refuse, and you're going to help me convince her to take it. He was right. I couldn't go back. The attack had shattered the last remnants of my old self. The Hannah who wanted peace, who was willing to walk away, was gone. In her place was a new woman, a woman with a scar on her face and a burning, all-consuming desire for revenge. I accepted the job. The day of our court appearance arrived. It was a cold, gray morning that perfectly matched the mood in my heart. The divorce was finalized quickly. Because of the evidence of his infidelity, the house was awarded to me. He got nothing. As we walked out of the courthouse, he turned to me, a cruel, mocking smile on his face. You look sad, Hannah, he said. Missing me already? I just stared at him, the man I had once loved, now a stranger I despised. You brought this on yourself, he continued, his voice dripping with self-pity. If you had just been a better wife, none of this would have happened. The sheer, unmitigated audacity of his words was like a punch to the gut. I opened my mouth to scream at him, to tell him what a pathetic, delusional bastard he was. But before I could utter a sound, Alex was there. He had come to pick me up. He saw the tears in my eyes, the sneer on Ethan's face, and he reacted. He strode over and punched Ethan square in the jaw. Ethan went down hard. He lay on the cold pavement, a trickle of blood running from the corner of his mouth. He looked up at us, his eyes full of a pathetic, wounded pride. So this is how it is, he spat. You two, sneaking around behind my back while we were still married. I should have known. Alex lunged for him again, but I held him back. Don't, I said, my voice barely a whisper. He's not worth it. Let's just go. Alex hesitated, his hands clenched into fists. Then he relented. He took my hand, and we walked away, leaving Ethan to pick himself up out of the gutter, both literally and metaphorically. On the drive home, Alex tried to cheer me up. He offered to take me to lunch, to the movies, to a museum, but I just shook my head. My new scar, a throbbing reminder of everything I had lost. What am I supposed to do now? I asked, my voice hollow. How am I supposed to face the world with this? This thing on my face, it's not a thing, he said, his voice gentle but firm. It's a scar, and it will heal. We'll find the best doctors, the best surgeons. We'll go to Korea if we have to. We will fix this. I promise you. And in that moment, looking at his kind, determined face, I believed him. While I was taking the first, tentative steps toward healing, Chloe was dealing with a crisis of her own. She was pregnant, and the baby wasn't Ethan's. It was the result of a sordid, ongoing affair she had been having with a low-level gangster, a man named Jesse, a man who was violent, possessive, and deeply involved in the city's criminal underworld. A man who, I later learned, was the one who had sent the man on the motorcycle to attack me at Chloe's request. She had been paying him with money she had stolen from Ethan. She was trapped. She knew that if Ethan ever found out the baby wasn't his, he would leave her. And if Jesse found out she was trying to pass his child off as another man's, he would kill her. She went to a back alley clinic and had an abortion. She told Ethan she had miscarried. He was devastated. He had been so excited about being a father. He had seen the baby as a chance for a fresh start, a way to build a new life, a new family, to replace the one he had so carelessly destroyed. Now, that dream was gone too. He didn't know the truth, of course. He just saw her pain, her grief, and he clung to her, the two of them adrift in a sea of their own making. A month later, I walked into the office building, not as a visitor, but as the new vice president of operations. Alex had been true to his word. My trip to Korea had been a success. The scar was gone, replaced by flawless porcelain skin. I had a new haircut, a new wardrobe, a new title. I was a new woman. Alex called a meeting to announce my appointment. Ethan and Marcus were there. When I walked into the room, Ethan's jaw dropped. He stared at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock, disbelief, and something else. Something that looked a lot like regret. As you all know, Alex began, a proud smile on his face. We've been looking for a new VP of operations. I'm thrilled to announce that we've found the perfect candidate. Please welcome Hannah. The color drained from Ethan's face. He looked from me to Alex, the pieces of the puzzle finally clicking into place in his mind. This is a joke, right? He stammered. You're doing this to get back at me. I just smiled, a cool, serene smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. If you're not comfortable with the new management structure, Ethan, I said, my voice as smooth as silk, you're more than welcome to submit your resignation. He paled. He couldn't quit. He was in debt up to his eyeballs, having borrowed money from Marcus to put a down payment on a house for him and Chloe. He was trapped. I apologize, he mumbled, his eyes fixed on the floor. I'm sorry, I said, cupping my ear. I didn't quite hear that. I apologize, he said, his voice louder this time, thick with a humiliation that was so sweet I could taste it. After the meeting, he and Marcus stood in the hallway, their voices low and urgent. I can't believe this, Ethan fumed. She's my boss. How am I supposed to work for my ex-wife? Marcus just shook his head. I don't know, buddy, but I'd be careful if I were you. She looks different, dangerous. She was. The old Hannah was gone. The new Hannah was a woman who had been to hell and back, and she had the receipts to prove it. My first order of business? I rehired Clara. I knew she was a snake, but sometimes, to fight a fire, you need to use a little fire of your own. And I knew that the sight of Clara, back in the office, would drive Chloe insane. It was the first move in a new game of chess, and I was determined to win. Clara, for her part, was ecstatic. She had been unemployed for a month, her reputation in tatters. She had no idea why I had rehired her, but she wasn't about to question her good fortune. She walked back into the office, a triumphant smirk on her face, and the first person she saw was Chloe. The look on Chloe's face was priceless. It was a mixture of pure, unadulterated shock and a simmering, murderous rage. "What are you doing here?" Chloe hissed. Clara just smiled, a slow, predatory smile. "I work here, again. It seems the new VP has a much better appreciation for my talents." The war was back on, and this time, I was the one pulling the strings. Chloe was spiraling. The abortion had left her weak and emotionally fragile. The return of Clara, her old nemesis, pushed her over the edge. She started picking fights with Ethan, accusing him of still having feelings for me, for Clara, for every woman he so much as looked at. Their new house, which was supposed to be a symbol of their fresh start, became a battleground. Ethan, meanwhile, was miserable. He hated his job. He hated being subservient to me, to the woman he had so carelessly discarded. He hated going home to a shrew who did nothing but scream at him. He started drinking, heavily. One afternoon, Clara, ever the opportunist, saw her chance. Chloe was out of the office, sick. Ethan was sitting at his desk, staring into space, a look of utter despair on his face. She walked over, her hips swaying, her perfume a cloud of cloying sweetness. "You look like you could use a friend," she purred, leaning over his desk, her hand accidentally brushing his. He didn't pull away. He was too tired, too beaten down, to resist. That night, he took her home, and as he fell into her bed, into the arms of a woman he didn't love, a woman he didn't even particularly like, he thought of me. He thought of our quiet, comfortable home, of the easy, uncomplicated love we had once shared. And for the first time, he felt the full, crushing weight of what he had lost. Chloe, of course, found out. She called his phone, and Clara answered. "He's a little busy right now," Clara said, her voice a triumphant purr. "Can I take a message?" Chloe went insane. She called her gangster ex-boyfriend, Jesse. "I need you to do something for me," she said, her voice a low, dangerous growl. "I need you to take care of someone." She gave him Clara's address. She and Jesse, along with a few of his thugs, went to Clara's apartment, ready for a fight. But Clara was smarter than they were. She had anticipated this. She had called the police. When Chloe and her crew kicked down the door, they were met not by a terrified Clara, but by a half-dozen uniformed police officers, their guns drawn. They were arrested on the spot. A search of Jesse's car revealed a significant quantity of illegal drugs. They were all taken to jail. Chloe, because of her involvement, was charged as an accomplice. She called Ethan from her one phone call, begging him to bail her out. "Please, Ethan," she sobbed. "You have to help me." But he had just received a call from the police himself. They had Jesse in custody, and he was singing like a canary. He told them everything, about his relationship with Chloe, about the money she had given him, about the attack on me, about the fact that the baby she had been carrying was his. "She played you for a fool, man," the detective had said, his voice devoid of any sympathy. Ethan listened, a cold, numb horror spreading through him. It was all a lie, all of it. The innocent, victimized girl he had tried to save was a monster. He hung up the phone on Chloe's hysterical sobs. He blocked her number. It was over. He went home to his mother's house. He stood on her doorstep, a broken, defeated man, and he begged her to take him back. She did, because she was his mother, and that is what mothers do. He and his mother flew to the States to visit his sister, to escape the wreckage of his life. And while they were gone, Eleanor called me. "He knows," she said, her voice a mixture of sadness and relief. "He knows everything, and he's sorry." I didn't know what to say. A part of me, a small, foolish part, felt a flicker of something. Pity, vengeance, I didn't know, but I did know one thing. The war was finally, truly, over. 3 years later, the ballroom of the Four Seasons Hotel was glittering with crystal and candlelight. I was standing in the center of the room, a vision in white, my hand resting on the arm of my new husband, Alex. The past 3 years had been a whirlwind. After the dust had settled, after Chloe and Clara had been sent to prison, after Ethan had returned from his self-imposed exile, things had changed. Alex and I had started dating. Slowly, at first. A cup of coffee, a walk in the park, a quiet dinner. He was patient and kind and funny, and he made me feel safe. He made me feel like myself again, or rather, like a new, better version of myself. Ethan, in a strange twist of fate, had also found a new path. He had started dating a quiet, unassuming woman from the accounting department, a woman who was the polar opposite of both Chloe and Clara. They had gotten married and now had 4 young children. And here we all were, at my wedding. Eleanor was there, beaming, holding 2 of Ethan's children on her lap. Ethan was there, looking older, tired, but content. His new wife, a sweet, gentle woman named Sarah, was trying to wrangle the other 2. They came over to congratulate us. "You look beautiful, Hannah," Ethan said, his voice full of a genuine, unforced warmth. I'm happy for you." "Thank you, Ethan," I said. "I'm happy for you too." And I was. The anger, the bitterness, the desire for revenge. It was all gone, replaced by a quiet, peaceful sense of closure. We had all been to hell and back. We had all made mistakes, but somehow, in the end, we had all found our way to a new, unexpected kind of happiness. The music started, a soft, romantic melody. Alex took my hand and led me to the dance floor. "Ready for the rest of our lives, Mrs. CEO," he whispered in my ear. I looked up at him, at his kind, loving face, and I smiled. A real smile, a happy smile. "More than ready," I said. And as he spun me around the dance floor, under the glittering lights, I knew with a certainty that filled my entire being that I was finally home.